What is up, guys? It's the Sound Alchemist, and today I'm back to bring you some news that the Warhammer community has been giving us on the things that are to come for this brand new ninth edition. So without further ado, let's dive into this video. But be sure to check the description below because the link to the Warhammer community page will be provided so you guys can get all those juicy details for yourselves. But for now, let's dive into the more pressing topics, beginning with the flyers. So this new edition has been doing a lot for vehicles, and especially so for the flyers. So the for the most part, any flying vehicle was just that, a vehicle. But now they have added a keyword called aircraft, and for the most part, a good chunk of units are going to get this aircraft keyword. So for example, you have the Blitzabama for the Orcs, the Doom Scythe for the Necrons, Ravenwing jet fighters for the Dark Angels, the Storm Wolf, is that what is that? And there's a good amount. Again, check the link below so you guys can get the full list of what is considered aircraft. And now that we know that aircraft is a keyword, what does that mean? So basically they gave us a few bullet points to look into. So for one, models can move within enemy aircraft engagement range. So I think that's like within like the whole 9-inch bubble or whatever. Models can also move over aircraft and their bases when they make any kind of move. That's pretty interesting. Aircraft can make a normal move or an advanced even when within engagement range of enemies. So, like if they're in close combat with them, they could still move out of close combat, which it makes sense. I mean, they're freaking flyers. Units can make normal move or advance if they are only within the engagement range of enemy aircraft. Makes sense. And then the last one that they give us here is that when a model performs a heroic intervention, piles in or consolidates, you ignore aircraft altogether. Unless that model that's doing any of these previous things has the fly keyword. So, it's really interesting because I'm thinking of like the Hell Turkeys, how they really want to get into close combat. The Hell Drakes, if you don't know what a Hell Turkey is for Chaos Space Marines, that's really interesting. So I'm thinking of like swooping in with it and just tearing things up in close combat, and then you're free to move the next turn. That's if you don't die in combat, which is pretty interesting. It's cool. I like it. And then we talk about the movement part of it. So normally, flyers can just like move, pivot, and then move again, depending if they're supersonic or they have like a minimum movement speed. You gotta abide to all these rules. Now they're saying that when a flyer moves off the battlefield, it then enters strategic reserve. What this means is that it's going to be able to enter the battlefield later on, kind of like a deep strike. But it's even better because now you're not just confined to being within like 6 inches of a battlefield edge. Literally, you're able to just deep strike anywhere within 9 inches, I believe it says, yeah, 9 inches from enemy models, which is great. Because Hell Turkey can come in, mess things up in close combat, fly off the board. Next time he's going to deep strike, he'll be within 9 inches, flame him up, and then charge in again, which is really, really good. It adds a whole new kind of way of thinking for your aircraft. For the most part, in our personal games, Gershwin and I don't really encounter too many flyers. Usually when we do, it's the freaking croissants from the Necrons. I think they're called like the Doom Sights. And pretty much what they do is they fly in, they get up and close to the enemy, drop some Necron warriors, and then fly away. Basically, they're just a really fast transport for warriors to get where they need to go. So it'd be interesting to see how this affects his game style, his gameplay. Probably not much, but at least they're feeling more like flyers should, which I'm all for it. I really like this this direction they're going for vehicles. So speaking of vehicles, let's jump into the next article where we talk about tanks. Well, not just tanks, because they kind of lopped monsters into that as well, but they get the big guns never tire, We've had this phrase being said for a while now, but let's see what ninth edition twists and turns for this. So what it says is that a vehicle or monster model can make attacks with ranged weapons even when its unit is within engagement range, meaning 1 inch or in close combat. Which is really cool, because even though you're, getting assaulted by like Space Marines, you can still fire. However, in such circumstances, vehicles and monster models can target an enemy unit even if other friendly units are within that engagement range of that same unit. However, if a vehicle or monster has more than one ranged weapon, you can still choose to target units that are not within engagement range of the firing model's unit, but they will be able to make the attacks with that weapon if all enemy units within the engagement range of the firing model's unit have been destroyed when you come to resolve those attacks. Which is really cool. It's a very interesting rule that lets you really feel like, yeah, I'm this big badass tank. Like, who cares if I've got Ripper swarms all over me? I'm just gonna keep on firing. I mean, that's how they should have been. Continuing on, it says that when a vehicle or monster model shoots a heavy weapon, you still subtract 1 from the hit rolls when resolving that weapon's attacks, while any enemy units are within engagement range. So yeah, you feel all badass because you can still fire out of combat, but you still have those guys, hitting you, trying to get inside your tank hull. So because of that, you're firing at a -1 ballistic skill, which I can see why that makes sense. Because you can't focus on other things if you still got things hitting you and trying to take you down. So, big guns never tire. I like the way you make me feel. And then a little snippet of more information they added to the end of this is for the heavy type of weapon. So for example, heavy bolters, that kind of thing. In 8th edition, if there was a heavy weapon that you were using, it's so big, so cumbersome, that you were firing it at a -1 ballistic skill. So it's a lot harder to aim, that kind of thing. However, this will only be affecting infantry models that use heavy weapons. So it's really great because now your tanks won't be forced to either be set up at the beginning of the game in a position where you have, a good firing range, good line of sight. Now you can still move and shoot without saying, oh crap, I'm going to be shooting at a -1 ballistic skill. That no longer is the thing. So that is really great. This is really good for knights, tanks, heavy, not heavy, monsters in general. So I'm liking it. I'm liking it. Warhammer community, this edition seems to be kind of pushing the envelope for the ways things should have been in 8th. So I like it. And since we're already on the topic of weapons, let's talk about blast weapons, which is the last thing I will be talking about in this video. So in previous editions, blast weapons meant that you used templates to find out how many models were hit. You could use like flamer templates. They're little like, I don't know, CD-sized templates depending on like the bigger the gun. But now blast weapons have changed substantially, because that kind of got thrown away in 8th edition. And now in 9th edition, a blast weapon works as such. Number 1. If a blast weapon targets a unit that has between 6 and 10 models, it always makes a minimum of 3 attacks. So when like you're determining to roll like how many attacks you hit, usually it's like a d6. If you roll a 1, a 2, you're hitting 3 times. Anything more than that, obviously you take the larger number. And the second thing, when a blast weapon targets a unit that has over 11 models, you don't roll the dice anymore to find out how many attacks are made. Instead, you just make the maximum possible. So for the previous thing, as I said, if you're rolling a d6, you no longer roll it, you just do 6 shots at that unit. Which, that makes sense, because usually bigger unit, they're like a mob warfare. Think of greenskins. You have a tide of 30 boys running at you. Obviously, if you're choosing a blast weapon, you're going to hit more of these orcs. So it makes sense. I really like the way that works, because now like the Astra Militarum with like their basilisks and stuff like that, keep them in the back and just hail out shot after shot after shot, and now you don't have to worry about a freaking basilisk shell just doing 1 wound on a single target. I mean, yeah, it could happen if they save all their wound rolls, but the chances of that happening are less because now you're at least guaranteed to hit at least 3 times. So I like it. Blast weapons are really cool in that manner. Obviously, a blast weapon like that won't be good in close combat, and that reflects in that you cannot fire your blast weapon if you are within engagement range of an enemy unit, even if that blast weapon is a pistol type, which is weird. Again, they say that the whole thing about this is why shoot, a huge mortar shell if you can get caught up in the blast? Instead, you're going to be fighting, mano a mano, so to speak. So, logic. It has logic to it. So that's all I'm going to cover today. There's a ton more little snippets of information within these articles, so check them out. Again, the link is down in the description. I really like this because flyers are starting to feel more like flyers. Tanks feel more useful. You're no longer going to get stuck in close combat. If you have infantry in a tank and you get surrounded by like a horde of orc boys, and that tank, you're kind of just stuck in there because now you can't escape because you have models all around you. That's no longer a thing. You can literally just mow down the orc horde and just kind of move away, drop your guys, or whatever it is you have to do. A tank feels more like a tank, is what I'm trying to say. Heavy weapons are cool, unless you're infantry using them, because now you gotta stay static. And blast weapons they're fun. I thought they were gonna bring back templates, but this is another way to circumvent that. In a way, they're kind of saying, yeah, you don't have to carry all those templates around anymore. You just do a minimum of 3 wounds. It depends on the size of the unit, but you know what I mean. Cookies and cream, that's my favorite. But anyway, that's all I got for today, guys. Let me know what new rules you're excited to try out. I, for one, am super excited at the changes in table size. I wonder how much of an impact that will have on games. But for now, let's wait and see as to what other releases come out for 9th edition. As always, I have been the Sound Alchemist, part of One Mind Syndicate, and I will be catching you guys in the next video. Peace.